Okay, so this is a rundown of my early experience with the EMB-110 Bandeirante. This is a Portuguese brand, so I'm presuming Bandeirante is the right pronunciation, or I could just all-out murder it. We're going to fly at the Bandeirante out to Albuquerque and enjoy some authentic cuisines out there. Definitely want some of them enchiladas and chimichangas. Sop it all up with some warm tortillas. Anyway, I got plenty of unintentional glitches I'll drop in this video, I'm sure. So here we have it. The Bandeirante warming up in the extremely mild mid-morning sun at Sky Harbor Airport in Phoenix, Arizona. We'll do an exterior inspection while our short list of guinea pig passengers load up and kick these tires around. Check for suspicious leaks down here. Be sure the static discharge rods are hanging in there. Need to get these engine and pitot covers removed though. Don't want to miss any wasp nests and spiders lurking in the innards and crevices here. So let's hop back in and we'll check those off from this pretty basic iPad manager here. That's better. Okay, so check the rest of it out here, walking around. Be sure these tire pressure's in good shape. Sample some fuel from the wings. Be sure the color is right, no water, no sediment crowding it up here, and keep moving around. Okay, so this all looks good. This whole aircraft has been refurbished, real shiny paint job. Can't tell it's been around for decades. All right, so we'll head on in and start getting things set up for our short trip up to Flagstaff. Okay, so I guess next step here, we're gonna check off those wheel chocks and the cones that are out there. Leave the door open for now. First steps here, cockpit preparation. I'm gonna look around here for the aircraft documentation. I assume it's gonna go in that little slot on the left side of that center console there. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna hide this because we can. Check, make sure that the parking brake's set here. Make sure our seat belts and pedals and everything are in a good position. Check to make sure that the landing gear lever is down. Look for these thrust levers here. Make sure that's set to idle. Propeller, we're going to set those to full, 100%. Fuel levers, they're down at cutoff. We're going to go up here. We're going to switch the battery to external power so we can mess around with all the electronics before we fire up the engines. Okay, next checks, radios are on. We're going to get this transponder set to standby mode. And we're going to check, look for our fuel quantity down here. It looks like we've got the right amount of fuel that I estimated for our very short flight pack. There's more than enough in there. Next up, check the fuel pumps, make sure that those are turned off. Check that fuel cross feed is also off in the center there. Now we're going to check autopilot, make sure that that's turned off. We don't want that on yet. And then we'll switch to the overhead console, look at the voltmeters. I'm going to test on those. There's a problem with this left side. Volts go up, amps don't show anything on test. Other side works okay though. There we go. Test looks good there. Have to get some work done on that left one. Alright, make sure pitot heat is off. And we're going to go ahead and get our passengers situated. First, let's make sure that door is closed. It is. Somebody closed it for me. I don't know how that happened. Shut that down and put that away. I don't need to have that hog in my view now. Okay, everybody. Saddle up. Put them buckles on. Stow them cigars. Better not have any cigars in here. Okay. So next up, let's get back up here and we'll get these navigation lights turned on. We'll get our rotating beacon turned on. Make sure that the ground crew out there knows things are about to get serious outside. Get the inverters turned on here. Double check and make sure that the inertial separators are off for now. Alright, fire test. Yeah, it looks brilliant. Over the right side, looks good. And we'll test these annunciators. Here we go. Whoa, look at that light up. Okay, everybody's up. Good deal. Alright, so before we get going with engine start procedures, we're going to get our navigation set up. Now, I could set up my departure and approach procedures with less button pushing in the world map view before loading the flight, but I'm trying to get more familiar with operating the different Garmin flavors in these aircraft so I don't get stumped as easily when ATC switches things up on me mid-flight. So I'm going to tune to the Sky Harbor ATIS here and get the latest.
Sky Harbor Airport information, Golf 1700 Zulu. Wind calm. Visibility 10. Sky condition clear. Temperature 14. Dew point 10. Altimeter 30.16. ILS runway 26.
Okay, so we'll set that to 3016.
Runway 25 left in use. Landing and departing runway 26, runway 25 right, and runway 25 left.
Okay, so hold up here. When I was checking Navigraph just before loading up the flight, surface winds were out of the northeast, live traffic on flight radar showed eastward arrivals and departures, so I would expect runway 7 right and left and runway 8 to be active, but this is saying calm winds and opposite runways are active. So hopefully the rest of the sim traffic is getting that same message, and I'll go ahead and set up my navigation for westbound takeoff. So first thing, we'll get flight plan button pressed here and take a look at what's currently listed in the default setup that we did for direct IFR from KPHX to KFLG. Viewing the map long range is kind of futile. So we'll get into our procedures, and now I can scroll down to select my departure. I don't want Baldy, I'm looking for Quake departure. There it goes, Quakey 1. And then for my transition, I'm going to double check, but I'm pretty sure Cardinal is the right one. So we'll hit enter. It's already in there anyway. Let's select that runway. I would have been thinking, runway 7 left, right, runway 8, but no. ATIS is telling us 25 left, right, or 26. So we'll just select 25 right. Put the one in the middle. We'll see what they tell us once we ask for clearance. And I'm going to go ahead and select our approach next for Flagstaff. If the winds up here are accurate to what the sim ATIS says, then I would expect RNAV 3 landing to the northeast. Transition, I want Oats. There we go. We'll load that. Deactivate all that blinking stuff there. Go back to flight plan. Next up, we'll fast forward through the scrolling double check of waypoints and removal of superfluous ones that crept in from my quick flight sim world map setup for the flight, and then get rid of any duplication where en route overlaps the approach. So next up, let's get down here and set up our target altitude. Just dial that in 12,000 feet. Click the center button so that we're ready to enter the rate of climb. So next up on our checklist, we'll be sure that the transponder is set and in standby mode. Altimeter, we just set that to the local pressure. Flight instruments, check doors are closed, saw that. Ground equipment's been removed. Next up, turn on our fuel pumps. They come up in pairs instead of singularly. Just FYI. Go up to our overhead panel. We'll activate the starter for the left engine and listen to her spool up. I mean, really, listen to that. Anticipation's building. Watch that left RPM. It reaches 10% pretty quickly if all's going well, I imagine. So now we increase left engine fuel condition to 100%. Okay, and now that sounds, oh yeah, really itching to get this lined up on the runway. The patience and process. We'll watch and wait for the RPM, torque, and oil pressure to stabilize. Okay, and then we cut that left starter. So now let's run that same process for our right engine. And we'll activate the right starter. Watch for 10% RPM. go. Right side fuel condition at 100%, and let that stabilize now. You're wearing headphones for this. I mean, wow. I've never flown in one of these IRL. I'm feeling some immersion here. Sure wouldn't mind an opportunity someday. Alright, right engine is stabilized, and we'll switch that starter off. So with these engines going, we can switch from external battery power to our internal battery. Generators 1 and 2, turn those on. Inverters are already on, confirming that. Voltmeters, we've got voltage on both sides. Inertia separators 1 and 2. I'm going to get those turned on next. That wraps up our engine start procedures. So moving on to the before taxi checklist, it's time to tune in clearance delivery and then call in my IFR clearance. I could just boop 1 on my keyboard to tune 118.1, but I'm trying to manually dial these whenever I can just to not crutch on my peripherals too much.
Phoenix clearance delivery 607-112 tree IFR to Flagstaff, ready to copy.
607-112 tree is cleared to Flagstaff Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 26 climb and maintain 11,000 feet. Departure frequency is 120.7 squawk 122 tree.
607-112 tree cleared to Flagstaff Airport as filed.
Okay, so an altitude adjustment in there. The target needs to drop down to 11,000 feet.
Departure on 120.7 squawk 122 tree.
607-112 tree rainback is correct. Contact ground on 129.625 when ready to taxi. Good day.
And then go ahead and dial in ground control frequency to have that ready. Alright, I need to reset the transponder to standby since communicating with ATC automatically updates it and sets it to alt mode early. Just confirm we got altimeter pressure set correctly and that the fuel pumps are turned on. We'll go ahead and do fuel crossfeed. I need to learn more about whether that's appropriate, but it seems to make sense to me. Taxi lights, get that turned on. And then pitot static heat, make sure that that's on. Next up, we're going to get the flaps set to 20 degrees. Can't really see in behind the fuel levers there, but that went down 1 notch, 20. Check the flight controls, be sure they're nice and limber. Nobody's stuck and inoperable here. Check them rudder pedals. Check those brakes. Now to call ground control for taxi clearance and jot down the big old taxi route.
Ground 607-112 tree with golf ready to taxi IFR.
607-112 tree taxi to and hold short runway 26 via taxiway Tango 3 Delta Tango Charlie Charlie 9er Bravo Bravo 13. Contact tower on 118.7 when ready.
Okay, so this is when we pull up the Phoenix taxi diagram.
Taxiing hold short runway 26 using taxiway Tango tree Delta Tango Charlie Charlie 9er Bravo Bravo 1 tree 607-112 tree.
Looks like what we're going to do is we'll push back, turn around, roll over to taxiway Delta, turn left, and short roll over to another left at Tango. That'll get us to the other side of the airport. Then cross Charlie, and then turn right at Bravo to mosey on up to Bravo 13, where we'll hold short for a run-up checklist and then takeoff clearance. And I almost forgot. I need to update my departure runway to 26, which, apart from almost forgetting to do it, it's getting a bit more fluid to pull up the procedure and then the departure option and then switch that runway on out. And then a quick check that that change hasn't hustled any unexpected waypoints into things. a little something out. Maybe I don't need pushback service. I can finesse reverse thrust. Oop, parking brake off. Not bad. I need to map that so I don't need to mouse it. Let's roll back a little further. Nice. Maybe too much there. A little brake action. No, bad idea. Everybody lean forward in your seats. Forward thrust. So dumb. What have we learned today? Mental notes made. Pushback crew was seriously validated watching that. Also, what's he up to? You don't pay him to move. We got some turn on a dime radius with this baby, so let's keep him out of the chopper. And off to our Delta Tango Charlie Bravo excursion. And while we make our way, let's open up this fine little bit of polish here. The windows on the pilot and co-pilot sides both open. Now, we don't offer catered food service on this short trip. Somebody just unwrapped an obnoxious tuna fish sandwich back there. Yeah, so we're airing things out while we have the chance. And I'm just going to call this out, that the Tango, Sierra, Romeo taxiways that join up the north and south sides of Sky Harbor will gladly test your suspension. I'm rolling too fast down Tango, and it sent me a memo. But at least it's crossable with some level of care. Okay, the Romeo taxiway, on the other hand, way out on the east end, will send your plane home on a tow truck. I mean, it's all sim-related issues. I mean, I guess, wouldn't it be harrowing if Sky Harbor had unsuspecting calamities like that built into the concrete? Okay, crossing Charlie. Remember, kids, look both ways first. So 26 is a mighty long runway, 11,500 feet. We're just fast forwarding along a third of its length here, and it's still stretchy. Okay, holding point checklist is up, parking brakes on, power is at idle. Hop at 100%, fuel condition 100. Transponder needs to be activated and set to alt. And we're going to close up these windows. We'll check out the air conditioning. This is the friendly and air-conditioned skies. We want to blow and moderate the remaining tuna fumes a bit. Check instruments. Engine and electric are normal. Turn coordinator, CDI, and direction indicators acted as expected during taxi. Annunciator test looks good. Hard to see, but flaps check at 1 notch at 20%. Lift up the armrest. Rudder and aileron trim check as neutral. Nudge elevator trim and pitch it up a bit for takeoff. Then we'll check our flight controls once more for successful grooviness. Next up, activate the yaw damper and flight director. And check that propeller sync is off. It is. And then arm the auto feather. Check the inertial separators are both on. Then switch the anti-collision beacon from rotating to on. And switch from taxi to landing lights. And we'll request departure clearance now.
Phoenix Tower 607-112 tree at runway 26 ready for departure IFR to Flagstaff.
607-112 tree, altimeter tree 0.16 wind 070 at 14. Cleared for takeoff runway 26.
Cleared for takeoff runway 26, 607-112 tree.
So we've gone from calm to essentially a 14-knot tailwind on this departure. Someday maybe Xbox will integrate with that sim and I won't have these strange conflicting realities to ponder. Finally, we get that roll onto the runway with a couple of straight skid mark miles of pavement to power onto and waft into the sky. Okay, holding brakes and bringing it up to 50% power. Now release, and I shouldn't be waiting to nudge this along to 100%. Despite the silly levels of tailwind that don't seem to bother the simulator ATC, we're still not hurting for runway length on this one. Ooh. Something doesn't look right up there. Yuck. Evasive. Man, that's 2 rounds of fresh underwear needed by this group today. You never want to see a thing like that. And I know why that happened. They were no doubt resigned to the idea that Sim ATC was out to lunch, took off into a proper headwind. Landing gear up.
607-112 tree, contact Phoenix, departure on 123.7. Good day.
Proper procedure back there would have been to dodge right instead of left, but I was already well left of their axis, so it seemed like the safer
Going to
move.
123.7, 607-112 tree.
I'm going to level off and gain a little bit more speed and get a good look at the downtown Phoenix skyline. Flaps up. Activate autopilot and nav mode. And engage vertical speed and bump that up to 1,000 feet per minute. And VSI coming alive, heading right up to 1,000. And about to cut across the Central Avenue high-rise corridor. I worked in a few locations down there in the early 90s.
Departure 607-112 tree is at 3,200 feet, climbing 11,000 feet.
607-112 tree, Phoenix departure, altimeter tree 0.16, continue to nav as planned.
Continue to what now? That doesn't sound right at all.
Horizon Earth 2238, you are 14 miles northwest.
Well, now that autopilot's working the departure climb, I'm going to pull power back to 90% and prop to 90 as well.
Cleared to Ellis.
Then the rest of the climb checklist. See, landing gear confirms up, flaps confirm up,
feet, expect ILS runway 8 approach via Ellis transition cleared to Ellis, Horizon Air 2238.
turn off auto feather, and propeller sync switches on. Looks like we're making our north turn at Herva waypoint. Inertial separators can shut down now, since we should be well above bird and gravel ingestion levels. I haven't reached 10,000 feet yet, but I'm going to shut down the landing lights anyway. Taxi lights confirm off. Engine instruments look normal. Performance and control instruments are tracking right along. Indicated airspeed for climb is a bit over 160 knots, which is fine. So, because I updated my onboard flight plan after setting it up in the simulator world map first. I like to avoid surprises, so I'm gonna refile it to hopefully be sure my expected waypoints and transition and approach are in the simulator ATC's books.
Would like to change destination to Flagstaff.
607-112 is cleared to Flagstaff Airport as filed. Squawk 1223.
Horizon Air 2238, please expedite your climb 6,000 feet.
607-112 cleared to Flagstaff Airport as filed. Squawk 1223.
607-112 read back correct. Radar contact 5,600 feet. Altimeter tree 0.17 continue to Wibbler turning and following heading tree 45 for 0 navigation climb and maintain 10,000 feet.
Wivla? We passed that way back there. Not sure that bodes well. We'll see.
Continue to Wibbler turning and following heading tree 45. Proceed on course climb and maintain 10,000 feet. 607-112 tree.
Touch up barometric pressure on the altimeters just a bit.
Horizon Air 2238, you are 300 feet above your assigned altitude. Descend and maintain 6,000 feet. Altimeter tree 0.17.
ATC gave us 10,000 feet on that clearance, so we'll drop it from 11 down to
Descend and
10.
maintain 6,000 feet. Horizon Air 2238.
Quick external drone view here as we're about to fly over the west campus of ASU. And Shaw Butte, North Mountain, and the Phoenix Mountain Preserve poking up back there, with the Arizona Canal winding its way through everything. Then the Estrella Mountains are off to the right near the horizon. I chased down a gorgeous supercell off the southeast edge of those 10 or 11 years ago. And the White Tank Mountains back there, and the circular ringlets of Sun City off the left wingtip. And looks like we're going to fly over the west side of the Deer Valley Airport up there. I spent some time watching and photographing general aviation aircraft training left and right patterns on those parallel runways a few weeks ago. Turning northeast at the oxygen waypoint now, and all these altitude adjustments from ATC are insane, so I'm going to turn the volume down on this so it's not as annoying. Reaching top of climb now, so we'll pull power and prop back to around 60%. If or when I get my hands on the operating handbook for the EMB-110, hopefully I'll get a better look at what's needed there for climb, cruise, descent, and fast versus economy settings, different altitudes, and anything else. And banking back north to Quakey now. There they are, the San Francisco Peak straight ahead where we're bound. They're about 12 miles north of Pulliam Airport, and the highest point in Arizona, 12,633 feet or 3,851 meters. This seems like a good time to set up the VORTAC at Pulliam, the Foxtrot Lima Golf VOR. It's not needed for the RNAV approach, but I want to get familiar with setting up beacon navigation in this cockpit. So one spot I can use to grab that nav frequency is the ILS runway 21 approach plate. It's 113.85, so I'll tune to that. And as soon as I transfer that frequency to active, we can see the RMI needle come alive and point to it. But I want to use the HSI gauge, so there are a couple things I need to do. First, I need to hold my heading while I adjust the VOR bearing. And coincidentally, our GPS course has us flying straight north, which is where the default heading bug is situated, so I don't need to maneuver it onto our current heading. It's already there. So now I can switch autopilot to heading mode, and it will follow that heading bug while the CDI gets fiddled with. So now up on the Garmin, I'll switch to VLOC mode, and the HSI needle tweaks to life. If I plan to rely on it for final approach, its heading will need to be adjusted. I'm going to set it to the 31-degree heading indicated on the RNAV runway 3 approach plate. It's not exactly aligned because the vortac is a bit off to the left of the runway, but it's close enough to line up pretty solidly. With that done, I'll switch the Garmin back to GPS mode and then the autopilot from heading to nav. And we'll be back to following the GPS course as we cruise over the New River Mountains. So we're passing over the Quakey waypoint now and making about a 14-degree left to the Snowball waypoint next. I'm making occasional adjustments to propeller and fuel condition levers to get a sense for impacts on performance. I need to work with those some more to get a better sense of it though. Moving over Verde Valley now, and we'll be banking right shortly to head to the Oats transition, which is just east of Sedona. There's a lot of brown haze laying down along the north side of the valley up there too. Maybe there's some forest fuel management and controlled burns going on today.
701 is at flight level 355, descending 10,000 feet.
JetBlue 701 Albuquerque Center, continue as planned.
I'm going to dial in Pulliam Airport ATIS to dial in the altimeter pressure, check wind, and whether I can approach for RNAV runway 3.
Flagstaff Airport information, Quebec 1900 Zulu. Wind calm. Visibility 10. Sky condition clear. Temperature 10. Dew point 10. Altimeter tree 0.22. Visual runway tree in use. Landing and departing runway 21. VFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions.
Okay, great. Visual 3 in use, but landing and departing runway 21. I'll just have to stay frosty with the flight plan once I contact tower. Let's get that Garmin ready to switch out the approach if that's needed.
607.112 tree descent and maintain 9,600 feet.
And there's the descent to 9,600. A little earlier than I expected.
Descend and maintain 9,600 feet, 607.112 tree.
Yeah, but I don't mind. So, engage vertical speed to 1,000 feet per minute, and that'll take no time at all. Oh hey, Cottonwood Airport down there on the left. Okay, RNAV 3, excellent.
Maintain present heading and altitude. Expect RNAV runway tree approach via JOSO transition. Cleared to JOSO 607-112 tree.
Not sure what's up with the JUSO transition. That was originally cleared for OATS transition, and that's where this bird's heading.
112 tree, contact Albuquerque Center on 124.5. Good day.
Going to 124.5, 607-112 tree. Albuquerque Center, 607-112 tree, 9,600 feet.
607-112 tree, Albuquerque Center, altimeter tree 0.22, continue to SESI as planned.
Still need to get this flight plan primed for a last second switch if that's needed. Woo! Smog alert for Sedona today. Stay indoors and keep those asthma inhalers close at hand. Yeah, let's set up 8,700 feet for our next step down after the SESI waypoint. So we're almost at the OATS transition, which is about 20 miles from the airport. So we should start our approach checklist. Shut off propeller sync and turn on auto feather. We just updated the altimeter, so that's good. So then we'll turn on inertial separators. Get that landing light on. And push the propeller levers to full. And there's our turn at OATS, heading to SESI. Alright, where is it? Airport Mesa, there it is, Sedona Airport. Rising out of the hazy mists.
Descend and maintain 8,700 feet, 607-112 tree.
Alright, stepping down to 8,700 feet, and less than a minute to reach that. But we do need to start reducing speed. A little over 190 knots on this descent. We should try to get that down to 140 after leveling off. Alright, well, we're fast forwarding our way through 140 knots, so I'm lowering flaps to 20% and adjusting power to compensate. This turn at SESI intermediate fix will line us up at the runway, and then we can spend a couple minutes finishing our configuration for final at Tokyo. We're about to fly over the west fork of Oak Creek Canyon now, with the airport hidden beyond Woody Mountain Ridge further up there. And maybe a tad early, but I'm going to lower flaps to 40% and slow us down to 120 knots now. San Francisco Peak's owning the horizon up there, with Mount Eldon squatting down low just to the right of him. It's cool to see Eldon at scale like this because it just dominates the sky from my backyard. I'm going to go ahead and lower the landing gear.
607-112 tree, you are 8 miles southwest of Flagstaff. Contact Flagstaff Tower on 134.55 when inbound on the approach.
Tower on 134.55, 607-112 tree. Flagstaff Tower, 607-112 tree, 8 miles southwest inbound RNAV runway tree approach.
607-112 tree, Flagstaff Tower. Altimeter tree 0.2 tree, wind calm cleared RNAV runway tree approach.
I lowered flaps to 60% in the middle of that, and I'm relieved to hear that RNAV runway 3 is cleared.
Cleared RNAV runway tree approach, 607-112 tree.
I'm going to set vertical speed to 500 feet per minute so autopilot can handle descent for the next couple of minutes while I make sure everything is set.
607-112 tree, wind calm cleared to land runway tree.
Cleared to land runway tree, 607-112 tree.
And then flying over Highway 89A, which will take you from Flagstaff down to Sedona and Oak Creek Canyon. Putting flaps to full. Checking the gear is down. Speed's dropped to 80 knots. It'll need to come up a bit. Should be between 85 and 95 for landing. Woo! Air quality warning for Flagstaff 2 today. There's an abundance of KN95 circulating around out there. I'm cutting autopilot at 7,700 feet. I could have let it go lower, but I'm not confident I have the descent configured precisely to the glide path, so I'll go manual the rest of the way. Alright, I can make out the PAPI lights now. And yeah, I am a bit high on the landing, but it's a nice long runway and I've got room to work with that and there shouldn't be issues. Easing power all the way off. Just work to bring her in smooth. maybe not buttery smooth, but downright solid.
607 112 tree exit runway when able.
Tell you what is not smooth is the sim right now. It is fighting and choking on this airport.
Decimal niner for 607 112 tree. Flagstaff ground 607 112 tree taxi to parking.
607 112 tree taxi to general aviation parking using taxiway Alpha 4 Alpha.
Taxi to fuel 607 112 tree.
Taxi to fuel? That's not what I meant to say, was it? Well, in any case, transponder to standby. And then landing lights off, taxi lights on, and pitot heat goes off. And auto feather off. And flaps up. So taxiing to parking now, and this ain't no Cessna 152. I've got passengers and I'm not going to the fuel box. So we're going to make our way to the terminal parking. Way up there on the right. Ooh, this terminal is pretty grim in comparison to the actual airport. The sim kind of gives it this cold mental institution look, like from a dystopian thriller movie, and it's probably loaded with all sorts of tropes and comeuppances. So we just need to run down the parking and shutdown checklist. So parking brakes on, taxi lights off, propellers to minimum, and fuel cut off, and quiet down fast, and inertial separators off, inverters off, and get those generators off. Find the fuel cross feed down here and shut that off, and then fuel pumps off both sides, and let us release our passengers from their bindings. Cut passenger heat and shut off the nav and anti-collision lights, and let's pull up this iPad and get that door opened. There you go, guys. Head on out. Get them wheel chocks and cones and engines and pitot covers on there, and then shut off master battery power. And here we are in Flagstaff. I hope you enjoyed that flight and the overview of my experience with the EMB-110 Bandeirante from Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport to Flagstaff Pulliam Airport. It's a real pleasure to fly this one as I get more familiar with its systems and performance. If you're considering getting a hold of it, I hope this was helpful. Also, special thanks to JayDee Gaming for the thorough checklist compilation. A link to that will be in the description below.